Iowans expect you to put in the work. They expect you to go to the counties. They expect you to answer their questions, to talk to them.
DeSantis plans on doing a full grass league, visiting all 99 counties.
We took our 3 kids to play baseball at the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa.
And he's showing up, he's talking to voters, he's listening to voters, he's talking about his vision.
I think you got to show up everywhere. I think you got to meet people, and you have to earn support from Iowans. And I'm going to be the only candidate that does all 99 counties. And we've now visited 87 of 99 Iowa counties. You got to fight for people. You got to be able to deliver the wins, both politically and policy. And you got to be able to lead, even when it's not easy. We've done 94 of 99 counties. We're going to have 98 done by the end of this weekend. You see in Iowa are people that believe in this country, have faith in God, understand the importance of family, and work hard.
He's been to 98 of our 99 counties.
I think it's important that you show up, you ask for the vote, and you tell them what you're going to do.
I think now he's closing in on going to all 99 counties.
I will get the job done. God bless you all. Thank you so much. We're doing all 99 counties in Iowa.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Iowa State Representative John Dunwell.
All right, Iowa, are you excited? Jasper County, are you excited? Newton, the Thunderdome. Hey, welcome. This is a special day. Governor had said he was going to visit all 99 counties. He's finishing that commitment today, and it's exactly what he does. He says something, and he does it. But more importantly than us getting a chance to hear his vision, over the last number of months, he's had a chance to hear our stories, get a chance to learn what it means to be an Iowan,
What it means to live in America today.
And I don't know about you, but it's a wonderful thing to be first in the nation and to be part of this process. So thank you for being here. And to get us started, I want to introduce someone I've gotten to know over the last couple years in the Iowa House. He is the majority leader. He is someone we respect. Both parties across the aisle respect him. He's respected in the community. Let's welcome House Majority Leader Matt Winschittel.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor and a privilege to be out here with you, watching Governor DeSantis fulfill his promise, as he always does. He said he was going to hit all 99 counties, and guess what? He's doing it here today. Now, I've had the privilege, Senator Sinclair, President Senator Sinclair, standing right there in the back. Her and I have had the privilege of working with the governor and being out there as early supporters of him. Since, what was it, back in April, May, Amy, something like that, we came out and we endorsed the governor. And during that time, leading up now here to December, her and I have had the opportunity to see how hard the governor and the First Lady work, how they're out there asking for your vote, earning your vote, winning Iowans over, but fulfilling on the promises. And of everybody else that's out there in the field, every other candidate that's out there, they say things, but they have not got the same record as Governor Ron DeSantis. He has said things, and he has gotten them done. Look, we've got a big responsibility here in Iowa, and I'm looking forward to continuing this momentum, seeing Iowans get out there on January 15th and caucus for the next president of these United States, Governor Ron DeSantis, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you didn't come out here to hear me speak, all right? So I'm going to cut my remarks off here. But what I am going to ask you, I know the folks in this room, you're going to go caucus. I know you're going to do that. But grab your friends, grab your neighbors, grab a family member, take them to caucus with you. Let's make this one of the highest turnout volumes for a presidential candidate in the Iowa caucus in the history of the state. You can do that. We can do that. Let's do this together. John?
All right, if you take off your hats and turn toward the flags, I'm going to welcome to the stage here Danielle Akey as she leads us in the national anthem. Danielle. You may stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, if you've been watching this campaign at all, you know one of the things about Governor DeSantis is he has the support of leaders across the state of Iowa. Leaders who are engaged in our community, leaders who are making decisions on behalf of voters. And one of those leaders from the community today is with us. It's my pleasure to welcome to the stage the CEO and president of the Family Leader, Bob Vanderplatz.
Thank you, John. Thank you, guys. I tell you what, I am thrilled to stand with you in endorsing Governor Ron DeSantis to be the next president of the United States. You know, my interest in Governor DeSantis began on election night in November of 22. Remember that red wave everybody was talking about that we're supposed to have? Remember, some were talking there was going to be a red tsunami? 2 states had those, Florida and Iowa. We had a red wave. And what you saw with Governor DeSantis and Governor Reynolds were bold and courageous leaders on everything that we hold dear. And when I watched Governor DeSantis give his victory speech that night, I thought there's a future president of the United States. Because what it shows is that you do not have to have pale pastels, as Ronald Reagan says, to win. You don't have to sell out to win. You can stand on the things that have made this country great to win. And so there was my interest. I thought, but what about his wife? And so Darla and I went to Tallahassee, and we met with Governor DeSantis and Casey. And let me tell you, Casey is a secret weapon for this campaign. And she'll be one heck of a first lady. And what really inspired me about Casey is what she's doing with Hope, Florida. How to show compassion, engaging the faith community and the broader community to meet people's needs in crisis and breaking bondage. She has a heart of gold, and she's standing by her husband's side because she believes for such a time as this, we need a leader like Ron DeSantis. Give it up for Casey DeSantis. But they also look at their peers. What do the other governors think about Governor DeSantis? And I happen to be very fond of our own governor, Kim Reynolds. And so I would visit with Governor Reynolds, and Governor Reynolds was taking such inspiration from Governor DeSantis in leading a bold and courageous agenda in Iowa. And when I talked to Governor DeSantis, he was so inspired by Kim Reynolds about leading a bold and courageous agenda in Florida. And you're seeing what is it going to take to win with governors like Kim Reynolds and Governor Ron DeSantis. So she checked that box too in regards to he's the real deal. But then the media would ask me, and they'd say, what are you looking for? I said, here's what I'm looking for. Because we're actually hiring somebody, but for the highest office of the land. I'm looking for somebody of strong character. I'm looking for somebody that I can trust. I'm looking for somebody who fears God. Because the fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom. In our country right now, we need somebody to know that they fear God. They don't believe they are God. And so we need somebody of strong character. We need somebody of high capacity, somebody who really can do the job. This guy, during COVID, he kept Florida open. He treated adults like adults. He kept the schools open, the businesses open. He took on the woke agenda in schools. He took on the woke agenda in big business. And he and he stood up for the sanctity of human life. This guy's got the capacity to be president because of what he's done in Florida. But the other thing I look at is this his moment? Is this his Esther moment for such a time as this? And ladies and gentlemen, when I take a look at him, not only will he win in 2024, he will lead on day one and for 2 terms. And that's what this country needs, a 2-term president to actually turn the page and go to the best vision for America that we have. Now, let me be very clear. As they just mentioned, you guys are going to caucus. Donald Trump has been a friend of mine for well over a dozen years. It's getting harder to be, but I'm still going to be a friend to him, okay? This is not against the former president. Voting for Ron DeSantis is not against Donald Trump. It is about the future of our country. And where Ron DeSantis closed the deal with me was at our Thanksgiving family forum about why is this your time? Why not just back the former president and let him run and let him win? And Ron DeSantis said this. He goes, first of all, I think we need to win in 2024, and I believe the former president presents our highest hurdle. That's just a fact. 2, as he said, I can lead on day one. I can put a team around me, but do not let it be lost. He can lead for 2 terms and not be a lame duck on day one. And he can spend his time defending this country versus defending himself. That is what we need in the next president. And real quick as I wrap up my remarks, my dad served in World War II. In World War II generation, they called the greatest generation. And the reason they call them the greatest generation is because they were willing to put the cause above themselves. That's a test of leadership. Are you willing to put the cause above yourself? This is not about a personality. This is about a future of the country. It's a cause above self. Ron DeSantis could be totally fine being governor of Florida, but he sees what's at stake and he's willing to put the cause above himself. So on January 15, when you go to the polls and you take your neighbors and your Facebook lists and your Christmas card lists and everybody else with you to the polls, understand we are electing a statesman. We're electing a shepherd for this country. We are electing a role model for this country. We are electing a leader for this country. And we are electing somebody who can win for this country. And that's why we stand with Governor Ron DeSantis. So that was the warm-up act. Now the real meat and potatoes is going to happen. But before that happens, let me bathe this thing in prayer and then introduce our governor. Dear Lord, we just come to you this afternoon. We're so thankful that we can gather here in this place and in your name. And Lord, I pray in this country, your name would be high and lifted up above each and every other name. And Lord, I pray that you would show us about who we need to get around, to rally around, to raise up their arms. For us in this room, we believe that's Governor Ron DeSantis. And if that's your will, we just pray your hand of favor and blessing on him and on his campaign. And Lord, when he does win the Iowa caucuses, and when he does go through and win the early states, may people know that this is of you, by you, and for you. Lord, we pray for your blessing on this country and on all the leaders and for all those who have put their name out to run for this office. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now it is my great honor, one of my most favorite things to do, is to introduce to you what I believe is one of the top 2 governors in the country, Governor Kim Reynolds.
County. Woo! Are we fired up? Let's see some energy and let's see some momentum in this room. We fired up? So I got to tell you, they asked if I would throw some T-shirts, and I said, well, the only experience I've had with throwing T-shirts is when I was at the state fair and I was with the queens, the county queens, and they said, here, I was lieutenant governor at the time. Lieutenant governor, here's some shirts, throw them out. I forgot I wasn't playing softball. I forgot I wasn't back on second base throwing the ball, and I reeled back and I tossed it, and I hit one of the queens in the head. And it knocked her head forward. It knocked the crown off of her head. So I think I sort of did this to you. I apologize. I'll find you later. It's like the glory days. You know, I'm old, and I'm just like, I want to still remain and still think about those athletic abilities. But, hey, thank you all for being here. I can feel the energy in the room. We can feel the momentum, and it truly, truly matters. Turnout matters. It counts. And today we have the opportunity to gather together because Governor DeSantis was the only candidate that made the commitment to go to all 99 counties. And today we get to celebrate delivering on that promise. Right here in Jasper County, number 99. The full Grassley. I think this morning Trump's team was saying it doesn't matter if you go to all 99 counties. How do you feel about that? Does it matter if we go to all 99 counties? It does matter. It matters to Iowans. They care because I know Iowans. I do it every year. I mean, Senator Grassley has set the expectation to do the full Grassley. But listen, Iowans want the opportunity to look you in the eye. They want the opportunity to size that candidate up just a little bit. And they want the opportunity to ask the tough questions and see how the candidates respond. It's also really important for the candidates. I've said it really helps them kind of do the retail politics. It helps them hone the message. It gives them the opportunity to hear about the issues that are important to rural America and to Iowans, and to talk about, you know, what's their policy and how they would address that. So it's also really beneficial for the candidate. And I tell you, I've got to do a couple of the visits with Casey and Ron. And I got to tell you, I think they're having some fun traveling Iowa, getting to know Iowa and getting to know Iowans, and to experience the Field of Dreams, Albert the Bull, Casey's Breakfast Pizza, Dutch Ludders in Pilla. Woo! I mean, the list goes on and on, right? What's not to love here? So I think they've had a really good time traveling our state and getting to know Iowans. And really, I think when you think about it, that kind of a commitment to say, I'm going to go to all 99 counties and then follow through with it, to put in the work, it's sometimes hard for me to get that done in a year. Think about the compressed timeline that they've had to get out there and fulfill this promise. It's incredible, and I think that certainly is a great indication of what kind of a president he will be as President of the United States. So this is what I know about Ron also. No, not only is he going to deliver on his promises, but this guy will fight for you, he will win for you, he will lead, and he will deliver the results that we need to get this country back on track. And I don't know how many of you watched the debate, but that was front and center. Woo! I was so proud. He went to the mat to fight for our values, to fight for parents, to fight for our freedom. It was such a stark contrast between conservative policies and the insanity, I don't know how else to describe it, that we see from the Biden administration and Democratic governors all across this country. And he did such a good job on every single measure. He knocked it out of the park and really, I think, showed us what's at stake here at this next election. And the good thing is, you know, Gavin just doubled down on the lies that's coming out of the Biden administration, but Ron had the facts on his side, and the facts don't lie. And it's why I say so often, if you like what we're doing here in Iowa, you're going to love what Ron DeSantis will do for this country. And that's why I wholeheartedly, excitedly stood up and endorsed him. I believe in him with every fiber of my being. I believe that this is the guy that can not only beat Joe Biden or whoever their candidate is, but will on day one get this country back on track. And it's why I said I'll do whatever I can to help you. I will get out there and share your message. I'll encourage Iowans to look at your record. It's a record of success. I will get out there and encourage people to caucus for you, because we don't have the luxury of getting it wrong this time. We can't, we're resilient. We'll come back after 4 years, but we will not recover from 8 years. And so we better elect somebody that can win, and we better elect somebody that has the skill and the resolve to get this country back on track. And again, that is Ron DeSantis. But what does that mean? We got to show up, right? It means we've got to show up. He showed up for us. Now we've got to show up for him. We've got to caucus for him. Momentum is created by each and every one of you. So we need you going to the caucus. We need you joining me. We need you joining Bob. We need you joining all the legislators, Casey. And most importantly, we need you joining the thousands and thousands and thousands of Iowans who have already committed to caucus for Ron, because I want a record turnout. And so I'm asking you not only for you to show up, but if you can bring your friends and your family members, and I have the plural on the end there, so not just one, we need to bring a lot, then we will get the result that we're looking for. And with your help, Iowa is where America's comeback begins, right? Let's go get it done. So it's worth fighting for. So what I have always said, and I will continue to say it because I also believe this from the bottom of my heart, Ron is the most effective leader that I have seen in a long, long time, and he will be the best president that we have seen in decades. So please give a warm, warm welcome to Ron DeSantis, the next president of the United States, and Casey.
Are you all ready to elect Ron DeSantis as the next president of the United States? Iowa, you are going to change the trajectory of this entire nation, and we couldn't be more honored and proud to be here. And you know what? We had some visions of grandeur. We thought we were going to have our 7, 5, and 3-year-old come out with us, but they are all asleep in the car. And you might be asking yourself, why is that? Because Ron and I got a very early wake-up call this morning at about 6 a.m. because the kids start screaming in the hotel room. And you know what it was? They go, "It's snowing! It's snowing!" They had never seen. Now, we had to talk about the definition of what it means to have snow coming down from the heavens and then being on the ground. And so literally we were out before coffee, by the way, at 6 o'clock in the morning so that they could go out and throw snowballs at each other. And so they had never seen snow up until this point. So it was pretty cool in the DeSantis household this morning. So I got to tell you, there's a lot I could tell you about this guy. I can tell you he's a heck of a dad of a 7, 5, and a 3-year-old. I can tell you a lot about how he stood by me in some of the most difficult times in my life when I was dealing with a cancer diagnosis. I can tell you about how he stood strong for the people of the state of Florida and delivered results unlike any other, minus your great governor in Iowa. But what I really want you to know more than anything else about Ron DeSantis is, as Rush Limbaugh said on his final broadcast before he passed away, he said, Ron DeSantis has an ironclad spine of steel. And I'll tell you what, that is exactly what we need as President of the United States. I could not be more proud of this guy because I have an interesting perspective on all of this, right? So I see him, in front of the cameras, and I see him behind the cameras. I see him at home. And I particularly remember when COVID happened because the entire world descended upon this guy to get him to bend the knee, to back down, to lock down his state, to lock kids out of school, to prevent families from being with their loved ones at the final moment of their lives, not allowing people to be able to go out and work and put food on the table for their families. And the media came after him. People in Washington came after him. Republicans in Washington came after him. The left came after him. And I watched from behind the scenes every day, month after month. This wasn't just one news cycle where they came after him and they moved on to the next thing. It was every day for months. They were attacking him with some of the most nastiest things you could ever possibly imagine. And I saw him day after day get up, go downstairs, get a cup of coffee, put on the full armor of God and the shield of faith, study the facts, the evidence, and go out and fight. And he fought for what was right. And that is just a precursor of what you're going to get when you see him as president of the United States. He will never stop fighting for you. He will always put you ahead of any of his own interests because that, at the end of the day, is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to represent the people who put you in office, and there are too many people who have forgotten that. So I couldn't be more proud to kick him out the door gently or forcefully if necessary, but it's not. But I am so proud to be here to introduce the next president of the United States, Ron DeSantis.
Thank you. Are you ready to make history, Iowa? We've got a mission, January 15th. We are going to win the Iowa caucus, and that is going to propel us to being the 47th president of the United States, and you're going to make it happen. Thank you. And thanks for everybody that's spoken here today. I really appreciate all the support. Appreciate the First Lady, Casey, my wife. She has done most of these 99 counties, maybe not all, and our kids have done certainly a majority of the 99 counties, and so they've had a great experience with it. But I remember Governor Reynolds telling me early on, you got to do all 99. Like, that's the people that do that are the ones that win Iowa, but it's also just an important tradition to do the full Grassley. So we decided that we would do it. It's not on a day-to-day basis. A lot of campaign consultants will tell you that you can be in more populated areas or you can even get into other states, and sometimes they'll advise you not to do it. But to me, it was the right thing to do because you need to actually get out of the media fog. You can't just be on what's on social media. Don't worry about what the cable stations are saying. Talk to real Americans. Listen to real Americans. Answer their questions. Ask them for their support. And I'll tell you, we've had quite an experience. Casey, me and the kids, when we visited Sac County, we saw the world's largest popcorn ball, which was quite a sight. And I know some of you have seen that. More recently, we were in Chickasaw County, and we attended church services at the historic Little Brown Church, which, if you've never seen that, was really, really neat to be able to do. We were in Marshall County last month, and we got to visit the Iowa Veterans Home and hold a little impromptu town hall with a lot of our veterans. We had World War II vets, Korea vets. When we were in Audubon County, my kids and Casey and me went to this big, large bull statue, which I think is the largest bull statue in the entire world. And so we got to get some good pictures with that, which was a lot of fun. Of course, when we were in Story County, we attended the Cy-Hawk game, which probably did a little bit better for the Hawk side of that, but that's okay. But we do hope, we have the Big Ten championship game, so best of luck to the Iowa Hawkeyes when they play Michigan tonight. We were in Sioux City earlier today, and our oldest daughter was not feeling well, but the two younger, Mason 5 and Mamie, came up the stage with Casey and me when we first started. And, I kind of mess with the kids. You want to say anything? You want to do this? And sometimes they're shy. Sometimes they'll do it. Well, my son, I put him on the spot, and he's a huge
sports guy. Like, he knows the scores, all this. So I said, hey, Mason, who is going to win, Michigan or Iowa? And granted, we did not orchestrate this beforehand. I was flying blind. I didn't know what he was going to say. And I kind of, as I let that slip my mouth, I'm like, if he says Michigan, he's going to get booed as a 5-year-old kid. That could leave lifelong scars. So I go, Mason, who's going to win? And he said, Iowa. And everyone started cheering. So, speaking of sports, when we were in Dubuque County, we visited the historic Field of Dreams movie site and got to play baseball on that field, and that was a lot of fun, and our kids were there and everything like that. When we were in Marion County, we got the Dutch letters and other sweets and desserts at the Jasper Bakery, which was good, but it was when we, what is it? Yarsmar, yes. See, it all blurs together when you do 99 counties in 3 months, which was good. But when you bring these kids in and they get all these sweets, this was probably at like 11 in the morning. The rest of the day with that sugar high was very, very difficult for us. So we had fun. Alameda, we did the WW Homestead. It had the cheese curds and ice cream. My kids had a great time on that, and we brought a whole bunch of cheese curds back to the state of Florida, which was a lot of fun. We were able to do a town hall in Muscatine County at the Kent Corporation. We were able to tour a big ethanol refinery in Hamilton County, and we were able to do a lot with agriculture. Senator Zombach, where are you at? Are you here? We did his family farm in Delaware County. See back there? Yes. Okay. And then, of course, in Polk County, we did a lot of things, but the Iowa State Fair, which was a really big deal for our family and for our kids. So we covered a lot of ground. We had a lot of good experiences, but talking with folks, seeing firsthand what people are dealing with, we got to see the resilience of farmers who have to deal with Mother Nature, but also have to deal with an overbearing government, and not just the federal government. You got to deal with like what California is doing that could affect things that are going on in Iowa and present challenges. We had a little tussle with California the other night, by the way, and I think we were... We were able to talk with folks about the struggles that families are going through to be able to make ends meet, to be able to get ahead, to be able to afford a home, a car, groceries, the challenges that are being done with our school systems. And I know your governor and the legislature have worked hard on that, but we saw that day after day when we were traveling Iowa. I ran into an Iowa family, actually, when we were at the state fair, whose one of their children is a Special Olympian and was actually going to be excluded from the Special Olympics, which was hosted in Florida a couple years ago, because he didn't take the mRNA COVID shot. Well, we don't have discrimination in Florida on that. We protected people, so we were able to tell the Special Olympics, you let all the athletes compete, and we were able to get an Iowa Special Olympian to be able to compete. And I ran into the family. We've been able to talk to many veterans who are experiencing a variety of challenges, particularly mental health, and we've also been to a number of organizations in Iowa who are working to help those. And of course, we visited so many small businesses, and it should remind us that the future of this country and whether our economy is going to be successful runs through small businesses, not the big corporations. It runs through the small businesses of this country. So the question is, okay, you do that, you meet people, you rustle up some votes, but is it just all about politics? And I don't think doing the 99 counties is just about the caucus. Like, yes, obviously, we're going to use that to win the caucus, but I think it has significance beyond there. One, by the fact that I'm willing to do this, that should show you that I consider myself a servant, not a ruler. And that's how people that get elected should consider themselves. You're not any better than the people that you are elected by. You come from the people, and you're supposed to serve their interests. And you don't put yourself above and try to govern for your own self-interest. The other thing you see when and it doesn't matter what part of Iowa you're in, and I've seen this in all the other parts of the country as well, I don't know that we've ever had a bigger gap between what we see out of the elites in New York and D.C. and in the media and in politics than the rest of the American people. These guys just don't care about you. They are not governing with your best interests at heart. They have their own agenda, and they are pursuing that agenda. That is why they would leave Americans stranded in Israel, and a governor of Florida has to send planes to rescue people back, which we did, which is fine. But then when they start moving people out, they dump them in Greece, and then they send them a bill for the services. Meanwhile, that same government and those same elites will let foreigners come into this country illegally, and they'll fly them anywhere they want free of charge. They'll put them in hotels free of charge. So they put American people last, and they put their own interests first. This reminds us that the only way we're going to turn this country around is if we're governing in the best interest of the people. We need to fire the elites that are in D.C., and we need to return this government to its rightful owners. The other thing I think it shows is that support for any candidate for any office needs to be earned. Nobody is entitled to support. You have the right to support who you want, and you should support the candidate that has earned your trust and earned your support throughout this campaign. And we've done that with this Grassley, and we're going to continue to do it all the way through January 15th. But I'll tell you, there's so much to be concerned about in this country. It seems like anytime you turn on the TV, you just want to pull your hair out because of all the nonsense that's happening. It seems like things are snowballing and continue to get worse. But I come away with doing the 99 county tour optimistic. I'm optimistic about this country's future because what I saw here in Iowa were people that are patriotic, that are hardworking, that are God-fearing, that really represent the backbone of what this country is all about and will be really the driving force to turn this country around. We have the ingredients that we need in this country to fix these problems. It can be done. It's just a question of will. It's a question of choice. And it's a question if we're going to rise to the occasion and get the job done. And I'm confident after going through these 99 counties, Iowa will begin the revival of the United States of America. Now, one of the things that people had liked when I would talk about different things, and we've answered questions all over the state, we've given speeches, we've done all that. One of the things that I think people appreciated is we're going to be laser focused on returning the government to we the people, to getting the government back under the Constitution as the Founding Fathers envisioned. And part of that means we have to take power out of Washington, D.C., and send it to other parts of the country, to the people, to the states, respectively. And one of the things I would talk about, and people liked, is I'm going to order all of our cabinet secretaries to reduce their agency's footprint in Washington, D.C. by at least 50%. And some of that may mean just taking the agency and moving it elsewhere, maybe parts of the agency. And so I've asked along the way, like, okay, you know, if I send something to Iowa, what do you guys want? And a number of people said that they don't like USDA Washington bureaucrats interfering with how people are farming, and they would much rather have this agency be run with people from their own communities. And so I can say as part of our effort to take power out of Washington, D.C., move agencies in other parts of the country, we will answer the call and what people have suggested here in Iowa. You guys will have first dibs on the Department of Agriculture. We'll send it to Iowa, and you guys take care of it. So we were in Georgia the other night doing a little debate with a fella that may think about some of these things a little bit different than you and me. And some people say, well, you know, why are you debating him? He's not running for president. First of all, he is running. He just won't admit it. But second of all, look, if I have 90 minutes on national television to articulate conservative principles, to show how freedom works and to articulate a path forward for this country, I'm going to take that opportunity. And I'll tell you this. We've had a number of debates and there's been other things, but the fact of the matter is, and Sean Hannity deserves credit for this, that was the most substantive debate that this country has had this entire political season. Because you saw the stakes. And so I wanted to take that opportunity, and I think it was good. And then it is just the fact that as Republicans, as we choose our candidate, we cannot assume that they are actually going to run Biden. A lot of Democrats, higher-ups, I think Obama, I think Bill Clinton, I think all these guys, the power brokers, I think they want Biden out, okay? Because they see he's not up to the job. And I think that there is going to be a movement, and it's tricky how they do it, but somebody like a Newsom who would be waiting in the wings, you know, maybe he's not considered such a good option after that debate, but who knows? But we got to be prepared with whatever they throw at us. And I wanted to show you as Republicans that I can stand on that stage, not just with an 82-year-old president past his prime, but their most coveted rising star who's in the prime and is known as this great debater. And so we showed that you put me on that stage next fall, and I'm going to be able to do the job against all comers on the Democratic Party. They can bring whoever they want. But the final reason why I wanted to do it was because if you look, California is really the petri dish for American leftism. Whatever Biden and Harris and these folks are cooking up in D.C., as bad as it is, it can get a lot worse. And they look to California and the leftists there for guidance about what they want to do for this country. So I was in a situation to be able to debate, someone that's had a hand in the collapse of a very significant state in our country. Was mayor of San Francisco, that city's collapsed. Then he applied the same model to California. That's collapsing. They're losing population. They want to take that model. They want to apply that nationally. And that will destroy this country if we let it happen. So those are the stakes that we have coming forward in front of us. It's a time for choosing. Do we want to choose the model that we've shown works in Florida and Kim Reynolds has shown works in Iowa, where you're standing for conservative principles, where you're improving quality of life and standing for freedom? Or are they going to double down on what we've seen out of Joe Biden and lead us down a really bad path? We need to choose freedom over failure in this country. And that was very clear in that debate. And one of the things I think it's like what the left is trying to do to this country, what people in the media are helping them do, is they are just trying to lie to the public about almost everything that's going on. When that White House press secretary goes to that podium and tells you that the border is secure, they think you're stupid. They're willing to say anything. When he was on the stage with me saying Biden is a great president and he's clicking on all cylinders, that was a lie. We know that was a lie. When he says that California has lower taxes than Florida, I mean, not only is that a lie, even the people that like what's going on in California acknowledge that one of the prices you pay of living there is you pay higher taxes than elsewhere. We are not going to be gaslit by people who think we're dumb. We're not going to be lied to and just take it. We're going to stand for the truth. And ultimately, we need truth in this country. So look, I promised I would do the full Grassley. We delivered on the promise. I promised I would do all the big things in Florida that conservatives have wanted to see done for years and years, and almost never got done, and still haven't got done outside of Iowa, Florida, and maybe a couple other Republican states. And yet we've done that. So whatever I tell you I'm going to do, I don't just say that because I want your vote and then I'm going to forget about it. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I not only intend to do it, I have a plan to be able to get it done. And so what can you expect from me? Kim mentioned, Bob Vanderplaats mentioned, we need a president that can serve 2 full terms. It really is important. If you look, You know, and I've been very frank with my views on President Trump's campaign, where he's campaigning on things that he promised to do in 2016 and didn't deliver, and he's doing the same promises: build the wall, drain the swamp, special counsel for Democrats, all this stuff. And I've been frank, but I've also acknowledged the good things that were done, and there were a lot of good things that were done. The problem is, almost everything good that was done was reversed by Biden on day one. And it's great that we had that, and it obviously that was better than a Democrat, what they would have done, but literally it evaporated with like the stroke of a pen. And that's because one term just isn't enough to get those changes to stick. You got to be able to be someone that can work with the Congress and actually get things in legislation. But you need somebody like President Reagan when he came in, serving 2 terms, and then his legacy far outlasted those 8 years. The Democrats weren't able to reverse what he was doing, and he basically, his philosophy was the dominant philosophy in this country for a quarter of a century. We've got to have a president that can come in and not just be a caretaker for 4 years, but can be a change agent for 8 years that's going to fundamentally put this country on a different path. So I will do that. So after those 8 years, what am I going to be able to tell you we've actually accomplished? Because I'm not running for a title. I've got a title. I've got a great state, a great family. Yeah, I accomplished everything I said I would do as governor. There's always more that you try to do for sure, but we've had an outstanding run, unlike anybody's ever seen in our state, especially for a Republican. So I'm not running for a title. I'm running to be able to deliver the results that this country needs to get back on track. So after 8 years, you get ready to leave office in January of 2033. You'll be able to hand off the reins, hopefully to a worthy successor. And what are you going to be able to tell the American people that you've actually accomplished? And here's what I'm going to be able to tell you that we've accomplished on your behalf. One, we're going to be able to say we restored the American dream in this country. People are going to be able to get ahead who work hard, play by the rules, get the most out of their God-given ability. They're not going to be held back by government-induced inflation, government-induced high interest rates, excessive spending, excessive bureaucracy and regulation. We're going to get rid of all of that and give people the runway to be able to succeed again, and that includes having energy independence and security and opening up all our energy resources so that we can be dominant in energy and you pay less for gas and all the other stuff. And it's important that we get that done. The other thing we're going to be able to say is we have restored the sovereignty of the United States of America. Mexican drug cartels do not run our border anymore. People aren't being poisoned by the tens of thousands anymore. The invasion has ended and people have been sent back to their home country. We'll also be able to say that we have revitalized our nation's military, that we are the dominant power in this country and that in this world, and that we have successfully fended off the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party. The 21st century is an American century, and we'll ensure that it remains an American century. We're also going to be able to say that schools in this country are for educating kids, not for indoctrinating kids. That the rights of parents are respected, that the woke agenda gets put in the dustbin of history, and that we teach kids to understand our Constitution and founding principles and what it means to be an American so that they can preserve our republic for future generations. We'll also be able to say that whether you live in a red state or a blue city, criminals are held responsible for their crimes. We are not letting the inmates run the asylum. Rogue prosecutors will be held accountable, and the rule of law will have been restored all throughout the land. We'll also be able to say that we have restored the United States Constitution to its rightful place as the center of our national political life. We'll have a government, a limited government that works alongside us, not an unaccountable, unlimited bureaucracy that imposes its will on us or is weaponized against us. We will have reconstitutionalized the federal government. We will have returned this government to its rightful owners, we, the American people. Now, if we can just say that, and we'll do more, but if we can just say we've accomplished all that, then that means we will have restored America to what President Reagan called a shining city on a hill. We will have ensured that we're not the first generation of Americans to turn over to our kids and grandkids an America less prosperous and less free than the one we inherited. No, we will have risen up and we will have met the challenge of the day. And our founding fathers understood this. When they went to the Constitutional Convention in 1787, they came armed, having studied the history of every republic in the history of mankind, because they wanted to make sure that they drew lessons from those experiences. And the thing that they found out was there was really only one thing that every republic in history up to that point in history had in common, and it was this: every single one of them had failed. So they understood it fell to the United States of America to determine once and for all, can people really govern themselves? Can you have a country based on the idea that our rights come from God, not from the government? That we live under a rule of law, not at the whim of individual men? Or was mankind forever destined to live under various forms of despotism? And they fully expected that this country would decide that question once and for all. They also knew that their work at that convention was not the end of the story. When Benjamin Franklin walked out after signing the Constitution, he was asked, "Did you give us a republic or a monarchy?" He said, "A republic if you can keep it." Because they understand this is something that every generations of citizens will have to take care of. Freedom will come under attack, and people will have to stand up and do their part. And that includes sometimes wearing a uniform, risking your life, and even giving the last full measure of devotion and service to this country. And we see those folks memorialized in places like Arlington National Cemetery. Now, we are not called upon to make sacrifices of that nature, but what we are called upon to do is to preserve what President George Washington called the sacred fire of liberty. This was a fire that burned in Independence Hall in 1776 when 56 men pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to create a nation conceived in liberty. It's a fire that burned at a cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, when our nation's first Republican president pledged this nation to a new birth of freedom. It's a fire that burned when a band of brothers stormed the beaches of Normandy, defeated Nazi Germany, and saved liberty throughout the world. It's a fire that burned at the foot of the Berlin Wall in 1987 when Ronald Reagan, our last two-term great Republican president, said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," and help bring communism and the Soviet Union down in the process. It is our responsibility to carry this torch. It is our responsibility to preserve that sacred fire of liberty. This is not a responsibility that I shy away from. It's a responsibility that I welcome. This is our time to meet this moment. You, as Iowans, will have an integral role in ensuring that we're able to meet this moment. As your nominee, I will get the job done with the election. We'll win the presidency, the House, the Senate, all that, just like we did in Florida in a really strong and big way. But as a leader, I will always be somebody that you can be proud of and how I conduct myself. And as your president, I promise you this, I don't care what they throw at me. I don't care what they say about me. I don't care about the arrows. I will stand for you, and I will not let you down. Thank you all. God bless you. Thanks so much. We'll take some questions. All righty. You want to take some questions? We got some time. Anyone got any questions? Yes. Well, Reagan is the greatest president, I think, since World War II. I think that he not only was successful in terms of his policies, he was very successful politically. And it's like, look, it's all about results. He took a country that people thought was failing, and he reinvigorated the idea of America. He increased patriotism. He gave people hope for a better future. And then, of course, the number one thing he had to confront was the Cold War and the Soviet Union. And by the time he left office, the Berlin Wall was on its last legs and came down shortly thereafter. That is a legacy you can be proud of. Yes. Well, it's a good question. I mean, first of all, I think I know your legislature and your governor have been doing work on it. We've done work on it in Florida. I think it's better tackled at the state level in terms of specific housing policy. But I think people in your generation need to know we're going to deal with this inflation and these interest rates. We're going to give you a chance to get ahead again, because right now, young people can't get ahead. Even if they do well, the costs go up faster than they can make money. And if you have student loans and things like that, it just doesn't work. So I think that that's the overall big issue. But we need to build more housing in this country. That's just the reality. I mean, you've seen the prices go up dramatically since COVID. Florida, we kept building. We can't build fast enough in Florida because people want to move to Florida. But a lot of the other parts, they weren't building. So you need to build more. We've incentivized that in Florida. I signed a big bill earlier this year. That's really working, and you'll see the market adjust to that in the coming months and coming year. But ultimately, more needs to be built. And you look at California. We have this debate. They didn't put this graphic up, but their average house is twice as much as Florida. So you have middle-class people that will leave California, sell their house, and then they buy twice the house in Florida, and they pay less taxes. Why is that? Well, part of it is there's a demand in California in some of the nice areas for sure, but a lot of it is they have draconian restrictions on what you can build. So you can't build anything. Of course the prices are going to go up. So we got to build more. There's no doubt. Right. Yep. Yes.
Ron, thanks for coming. Sure. First of all, and I want to know, as I'm a past Trump supporter,
right.
I want to know from a personal level and from a policy level how you separate yourself from the Trump policy.
So one, I mean, I think his policies were overall sound. I think he had a lot of good policies. I think I've actually shown an ability to implement American First policies more effectively than he did. If you look at what we've done in Florida, everything I said that I would do, we did. And these are real significant conservative policies that people have wanted for a long time. So I think all the good parts that he stood for will build off of. But for example, like the border wall, having Mexico pay for it, I supported that. I thought that was a great idea. It didn't happen. And I think it was because you got to be in there on day one, and you cannot take any prisoners. Like, you have got to say, we need a wall. How do you get Mexico to pay for it? Yeah, they're not just going to give you money. You impose fees on the remittances that the foreign workers send back to their home countries. You'll raise billions of dollars. So we'll deliver on that, because I really believe the walls work. And if we had the wall, Biden would not have been able to bring in 8 million people. That would not have happened. We will do the swamp, but you got to be ready on day one to drain the swamp. And you can't appoint people who are part of the swamp, which, some of the people some of the people that he put in or elevated, the head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, that was Trump's appointee. Not done a good job. He elevated Fauci. Not a good job. Fauci needs to be held accountable. We're going to bring a reckoning for this. We're going to hold these people accountable. Do not worry. So I think on personnel, you've got to attract folks that are mission oriented. I don't care if they flatter me. Honestly, I've appointed people in Florida who opposed me in the primary when I ran in 2018 for governor, because our mission was aligned and I trusted them to do the good job. What you don't want is somebody who doesn't share the mission just because they say nice things about you. You're going to appoint them. You can't do it that way. So we will do personnel, I think, a lot differently than he did. And I think we'll also deal with some of these issues like China a little bit different than he did. I mean, I think his praise for Xi Jinping, to me, I just disagree with that. I mean, they unleashed COVID in this world. They unleashed fentanyl in this country. He's not somebody to be lauded or complimented. This guy is a dictator, and China is our number one adversary. So we're going to be very clear on that, and we're going to hold China accountable for what they're doing with that. Now, in terms of kind of personal, how do you view things? Look, I think what I showed in Florida is, as a leader, anytime, look, some people get in office, they don't like making decisions, because anytime you make a decision, some like it, some don't. And that's just the way it goes. You can't shy away from that. And so I leaned in. I made big decisions. I got ahead of things, all that stuff. And so a lot of people liked it. Some people didn't. If I had just not done anything, maybe some of those people didn't like some of his decisions. Maybe they would have been more favorable or not. I mean, I won very big, but still. But here's the thing. What you don't want to do is repel people for no reason, okay? If they really disagree with the policies, fine. But I don't want to be insulting voters. I don't want to be getting into some of these needless food fights. I want to be higher. I want to set a good example for this country. I want to lift people up. I don't want to be grinding people down. And part of it is, and so I get into really serious, substantive political battles. And oh, by the way, I win those battles, which Republicans haven't won a lot lately. And so we're going to do that. And we will fight and fight and fight. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we're attracting as much support for this party as we can. I don't want to be in a situation where a voter, like in 2020, when I was out campaigning in the presidential for Trump, there were some of these voters that didn't like Biden, didn't like the Democrats, but they just wouldn't vote for him, Trump, because of things that had nothing to do with policy. That's what you don't want to do. You want to do, and look, part of the reason I think that is because I think it's strategically better, but I also just think as the father of a first grader, a kindergartner, and a preschooler, I have a responsibility to set a good example for them. And I'm very, very important that we do that. Yes. Oh, no open check for Ukraine. In fact, the money that they've sent over there, Trump, I supported Trump doing the defensive weapons and all that in the past, but what they've done is they've sent over $100 billion. A lot of this is going to pay salaries for bureaucrats, subsidizing businesses. That is totally, totally unacceptable. And here's the thing. I'm anti-Russia. I'm anti-Putin. I want, them. If they could just snap my fingers and end it and put Russia back in the box, I would do that in a second. But at the same time, it's like, how is that issue more important than our own country's border? How is that issue more important than taking care of our veterans? How is that issue more important than ensuring our own military is getting what it needs? So, yes, there's not going to be any of that stuff happening anymore. And honestly, Congress has kind of hit the skids on it a little bit. But you know what's happened? Because there's a lot of people have raised those concerns like you have. As the Congress hasn't done anything, the Europeans are now doing more. They should have been doing this to begin with. It's their continent. So we're going to make Europe meet their obligations for this. Who else? Anybody else?
Ladies and gentlemen,
yes.
This will be our last question.
Yep. Surgeon General. Well, I think they definitely are responsible for deaths, no question. So the questions about CDC, NIH, FDA, some of these agencies, and really how they've conducted themselves. Well, it was interesting. There was a quote in an article a few months ago from RFK Jr. saying, that he met with me in the past, and I basically said something to the effect of, that those agencies just needed to be raised and kind of burnt to the ground. And I just said, listen, that is not true. I was not that kind to those agencies, so don't worry. It's like, no, but seriously, I think if you think about think about the 21st century, the three biggest things that have happened, 9/11 and the wars that followed, financial crisis and the Great Recession, and then COVID. And I'd say COVID probably had more of an impact on everybody than the others did, just simply because, 9/11 was obviously a traumatic event for the country, thousands of deaths. We lost people in the wars, very significant. Great financial crisis impacted huge people's daily lives, but COVID impacted literally every single person in this country was impacted in some ways by the policies that were advocated by Fauci, by CDC, NIH, FDA. And the thing is they whiffed so badly on this. They were wrong. And a guy like me, when I was saying kids need to be in school, I mean, I started saying this in April of 2020, and I was just getting filleted for it. But we said kids are going to be in school. Businesses need to be open. We can't follow this 15 days to slow the spread indefinitely. It doesn't work. And so I took a lot of heat. There was not one doctor willing to stand with me and say any of that because they would say it privately, but they were worried that they would get pilloried professionally if they did it. So Joe Latipo, who's our Surgeon General now, I brought him on board because he was one of the few that was willing to publicly criticize Fauciism. As early as March and April of 2020, he'd write op-eds in the Wall Street Journal saying, like, no, you can't close businesses indefinitely. Don't impose mask mandates. Don't close schools. And so I'm like, this is the type of guy we need. And I didn't think he would do it. And so I told my guys to reach out to him. And he's like, well, let me talk to my wife. And so 30 minutes later, he called back. He's like, yeah, I'm interested. So we did an interview. We brought him. But what I told them when he got on board, I was like, listen, you're going to be the only Surgeon General in America, of all 50 states most likely, that is going to be willing to take these positions. And just I want you to know, I back you, but the media is not going to like you. They're going to attack you. They're going to smear you. So you just better be ready for that. And, he was already getting ostracized at UCLA, which is where he was at, by his colleagues, because it was basically like COVID became a religion totally apart from anything that was happening on the ground. It was a way for them to signal their virtue. And these are doctors. These are people that you would normally trust. And that's another thing. Like, having gone through COVID, you look at what's happened. That profession has been infected with woke ideology. I mean, it's sad, but it's happened. These medical schools like Harvard graduating, these doctors, and they basically take like a woke Hippocratic oath. I used to think if something happened to like a family member, I would want like a Harvard doctor there tending to them. Now, if it's like one of these younger doctors and they can't even tell me if a man can get pregnant or not, I don't know that I want you operating. I mean, like, it's like, if you're going to go down that road, that's fine, but maybe I'll take someone somewhere else. But so he came on board and basically just dug in on all this stuff. The mRNA shots, the schools. Schools were open in Florida, but a lot of the school districts were saying if one kid tests positive, then anyone who is near them needs to be home for 2 weeks. No. So we came in and we said no healthy quarantining. In public health, you would quarantine sick people. If somebody is sick, fine. You shouldn't go to school, whatever. In fact, but you never quarantine healthy. And that's what they were doing. So we ended that. We ended all this stuff. And, got to the point where I would tell him, I'm like, I haven't followed what you've been doing lately, but I see you're being attacked by CNN and NBC. So you must be doing something right because they're coming at you. But it's a larger issue about, one, we're going to clean house in all these agencies. Because I think they're totally bankrupt at this point. And, the FDA, they're owned lock, stock, and barrel by Big Pharma. When they are approving an mRNA COVID shot for 6-month-old babies, just understand, there was no data to show that benefits a 6-year-old baby. Yet they approved it on an emergency use basis, and that's good for Big Pharma and their profits, obviously, but it is not the right thing for this country or for public health. And so we were the first state in the country to say that these young kids should not get it, and Joe did not get it for the health department to pass out. So he did that. And so we're going to do that, and it needs a big house cleaning. I'm the only candidate running who will bring a reckoning to these agencies. Only one. And I don't even think that's up for debate because, Donald Trump, he says everything he did in COVID was right. That's what he says. He will never admit a mistake. He says everything he did was right, including elevating Fauci, turning the government over to Fauci, not firing Fauci, and indeed on his last day in office, did he help the people that got caught up in the Capitol stuff that he told to go there? Did he do any support for them? No, but he did give a commendation to Dr. Fauci on his last day in office. So, to me, if he could even get elected, he is not going to want to revisit the COVID stuff because he's just going to view it as it's going to be potentially critical of him, and he's not going to do it. And here's the thing. We all make mistakes and everything. And I've done things I've said, in hindsight. Knowing what we know now how they handled it in his administration was wrong, okay? It was the wrong approach. Maybe no one had better information at the time, although I do think that they did get information soon and they should have reversed course. But put that aside. Knowing what we know now, would you still do the same things that you would do? His answer to that question is yes. And to me, that is disqualifying because this can never happen to our country ever again. Yep. So just final point on that. So when you're appointing people, and it goes back to another question, if you're in these agencies are not going to want to give up power. The D.C. people are not going to want to see change. The media is not going to support it. So when you put people in these leadership positions, they got to have backbone. They got to be willing to take a lot of incoming fire. And not everyone wants to do that. I mean, like I go out, people say all kinds of crazy stuff about me, and it's like, okay, I think most people realize that this is just stuff that's false, but that's just what happens. So that's either something that you can accept. Some people even use it as positive feedback, or it's something that you're uncomfortable with. If you want to be liked in Washington as a conservative, you are not going to be able to do conservative things that are going to make a difference. So just understand that when you're going in. And so somebody like Joe, I think, really appreciated that when he was getting fire, that meant he was over the target. That's what you need in all these key positions, and that's what we'll be able to deliver. So I want to thank everyone for coming. We did the 99. Now we need caucus night to victory. God bless.
They expect you to answer their questions, to talk to them.
DeSantis plans on doing a full grass league, visiting all 99 counties.
We took our 3 kids to play baseball at the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa.
And he's showing up, he's talking to voters, he's listening to voters, he's talking about his vision.
I think you got to show up everywhere. I think you got to meet people, and you have to earn support from Iowans. And I'm going to be the only candidate that does all 99 counties. And we've now visited 87 of 99 Iowa counties. You got to fight for people. You got to be able to deliver the wins, both politically and policy. And you got to be able to lead even when it's not easy. We've done 94 of 99 counties. We're going to have 98 done by the end of this weekend. You see in Iowa are people that believe in this country, have faith in God, understand the importance of family, and work hard.
He's been to 98 of our 99 counties.
I think it's important that you show up, you ask for the vote, and you tell them what you're going to do.
I think now he's closing in on going to all 99 counties.
I will get the job done. God bless you all. Thank you so much. We're doing all 99 counties in Iowa.